it seems to be a race to the bottom on price.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing that. These companies aren't going to be able to afford to keep moving, are they? I think dynamic pricing is now going to become more of a reality.
I think so. I think in certain circumstances,
Yeah.
I think there's a risk that the carrier loses any brand equity
Yeah.
because they're not going through a traditional checkout. They're going through a social commerce checkout.
It's
Go
all
online.
overseas now, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Overseas call centres or
not even call
online,
centres.
you're talking to a robot.
Yeah. And that's it. Some people don't even have call centres. You're going to automate the front end. And the companies that have really risen up in terms of either retail or service base, there's absolute correlation between the fact that they've grown and that their service is one that they care about.
What do you think these carriers, these tech platforms are seeing that's a little bit different in the past sort of 12, 18 months?
Well, they're not even going to see the carrier.
Welcome to Let's Be Honest About Logistics podcast. I'm Nikki Jones, the CEO and founder of Vidoo Group, and I'm joined here today by Michael Anderson. Michael is going to talk to us about last mile delivery and cross-border optimisation. So welcome to our podcast,
Great
Michael.
to be here, Nikki.
Thank you very much. Should we start telling the audience a little bit about you as a person, your career, your background?
Sure. So I've been in this industry, logistics, really final mile, for 30 years now.
We're getting on, aren't we?
Yes, unfortunately so. Or fortunately so from
Yes, for
this
sure.
perspective, because I'm now working outside of a corporate environment. But the history is before e-commerce and final mile, I was working in the motor industry, brief foray into retail.
Okay.
And I joined Royal Mail on the premise that this will do for a short while. And 25 years later, I departed.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because you started with Parcelforce, didn't you? And then
With Royal Mail in a sales role, and then quite quickly, within 2 or 3 years, I was working for Parcelforce. And it was Parcelforce that really made me want to get on in the industry.
Okay.
I was a late starter career-wise, but Parcelforce at the time was pretty much on its knees. The network was cut in half at that point.
Okay.
Project Apollo, and turned around. And I was part of that, and was fortunate enough to then get onto the career ladder. Managed operations, so was managing depots, delivering, collecting. Absolutely loved it. And then had some fantastic project management tasks. So putting in new tech systems, or putting them in and finding that it wasn't quite right, and everything that you learn with that, optimizing those networks, introducing new products. And so a really varied career.
Yeah.
And then the last 10 years or so, I was fortunate enough to work in Royal Mail's international team. And that's where I saw really the diversity of logistics. So working with Royal Mail subsidiaries, working with their partners, postal and commercial, blessed with the opportunity to travel and actually see how those businesses work. So really was such a, I wouldn't say, eye-opener's not a big enough word, because you just saw the breadth of what logistics does, but also that it's different culturally wherever you go.
Yeah.
So it might be the same kit, it might be fundamentally the same, but it still has to appreciate the market in which it operates.
Well, you touched on quite a few areas there, didn't you? So you had the sort of product piece, the carrier, the innovation, the tech.
So the tech part of it, always been fundamental to the business. And I trained in automotive engineering, and technology then, well, cars were analog. There were digital elements to it, just didn't exist. So it was when I saw a technology platform going in that you suddenly realise how critical data is.
Yeah.
But data is nothing without it turning into information.
Yeah.
And I think that's still something that the industry and commerce generally is learning, that you can have all the data in the world, but if you're not turning it into information that's usable by people, then it's meaningless.
Yeah.
And that's where, to the point where I am now, when I left Royal Mail, I worked for Metapack as part of the Octane Group, and again, data, just swimming pools full of it. But information, that's where the criticality comes in.
Yeah.
And it's now using it and helping businesses understand that a lot of what is seen as being AI and something new now. It really isn't.
No.
We're already doing it, and we've been doing it for years, and much of it has been machine learning effectively.
Yes.
And it's coming from an analog environment where it's people recording what they see as the trends into a digital environment. And that's where that transition is something that still really excites me, because that's where you can get tremendous efficiency out of an organisation just by understanding what the organisation does, not necessarily just what you want it to do, but what you do already.
Capabilities of.
And what you do well and what you don't do well. So, yeah.
And is that why you sort of digress then and sort of set up your own consultancy? Did you want to get a bit more heavily involved in this with the carriers and the partners and the tech platforms?
That was the driving force for me making the decision. I was in a position at the end of 2024 where I'd worked for a tiny little French company that does route optimization.
Yeah.
It was always going to be a short-term project, and at the end of that, I could go back to the corporate world. We spoke, and there were opportunities.
Yeah.
But I think the light bulb moment was thinking, well, can I help people do something better? And an opportunity came up with a technology partner that I'd worked with previously, helping them design their product suite. And then thinking to myself, well, they're actually 30 years of knowledge. Then
very valuable.
If you can help people make better decisions, then there's something that will sustain me. And it's also turned out to be a fantastic step for me because of the diversity of it.
But it's that taking that leap of faith, isn't it?
Yeah,
I remember
it is.
you and I spoke. I was like, oh, come on, Michael, just get on with it. Come on. Just don't, you can do it. You can move away from corporate. You've got lots of contacts, but it is that fear of, if you're used to having a basic salary and you're getting your benefits packages, and then you're going into the world in a consultancy, you might only have a 2-month, 3-month, 6-month interim contract, and then the fear comes in, oh gosh, am I going to get another project after that? But we spoke, obviously, didn't we, the other day about this. You're very prevalent at events, you're very strong at networking. And I think that's helped. So now people are aware that you're open to these contracts. They're now coming to you, aren't they? So that's testament to your relationships, isn't it?
It's testament to the attitude I think I took to working with people, in that just the basics of respect and trying to, if you can help someone, help them.
Yeah.
And it's only when you lean into your network that you really understand the true worth of it. And I was more than pleasantly surprised. I was very made up by the fact that people were there to help me. So, and that was a trigger to, okay, you can do this.
And what do you think they're looking for you to focus on? What is there a certain area of technology that is prevalent at the moment for them as a sort of?
Yeah, I think there's a few areas around. Optimisation will always be a really big part of it, and the more that you do as a business in final mile or cross border, the more challenging it can look in terms of thinking, well, how do I optimise this machine? Yeah. And the company I worked for in France, Cardinal, that was so insightful because if you can allow yourself the opportunity to trust someone who's skilled in computational capabilities and algorithms, and it's mathematically very well qualified, it's amazing what they can do. But you're giving them the train set in many ways. Yeah. But what the difference is now is the capability to model.
Yes.
Previously, it was, look, we've got an idea, or that's simplifying it terribly, but it looks like this.
Yes.
And therefore we should strike out and do something different. And the level of risk associated then wasn't incredibly high, but it was noticeable. Yes. Now the level of risk is really reduced because you can model, you can run these things 10,000 times. So it's helping people understand not only that that's the case, but also then how to get the best out of that technology and interface the people that you've got who do that work at the moment.
Yes.
Not pushing them to one side, but actually turbocharging their capabilities.
Yes.
So it's a combination of human experience, human intellect, and the power of I'm reluctant to say AI because so much of it is what we do already.
Yes.
It's machine learning, and there's some great algorithms. So yeah, 20% is AI, but 80% is capability.
And what sort of tech are they focusing on then? What is it that they're using your expertise for?
So it's really understanding, well, how do you, like I say, interface your requirements to the technology element of it, and also selecting the right partner. So there's if you're looking to optimize networks, there's hundreds of suppliers out there, but it's understanding what are their capabilities actually suited to what you are looking to do, and whether if you're looking for a systems integrator, it's a very different equation or decision compared to you're looking for something quite specialist. And the more specialist you get, the more questions you really need to ask about, how are they able to supply that and be able to give you the solution that you need.
What do you think these carriers, these partners, these tech platforms are seeing that's a little bit different in the past sort of 12, 18 months? Do you think they're seeing any trends or anything that they're starting to adopt?
Yeah, I think there's, in terms of the specifics, I mean, if you look at what's happening with out of home, it's out of home has grown massively outside of where it was adopted first. If you step back from the tech from a minute, there's actually a strategic element there as well, which says you've got to ask yourself the question, why did out of home grow in those territories in the way that it did and become dominant? So once you answer that question, you've then got to look at the market that you're in. And so it's broadening the understanding of what you're looking to optimize, because then that will determine what's your growth pattern and what your optimization requirement actually is. Because the way that out of home's grown, it's been alongside a significant growth in volume post-COVID. Apart from 22, where it was flat, 23, 24, 25 have been good growth years. And it's enabled carriers not to have to take in volume, but not to have to invest in traditional infrastructure, but still have to get infrastructure for out of home. But is that out of home truly optimized?
Yes.
And that's where optimizing it from a capacity and a utilization perspective is one thing. But then you should be preparing to say, well, how do I actually limit the level of that infrastructure?
Yes.
And instead of thinking, well, there's a ceiling, I don't know where it is, I just keep putting lockers out there. It's actually saying, well, for every locker that you're spending, it's costing you tens of thousands of pounds a year to keep in place.
Right.
So it's infrastructure. So how do you limit the amount of infrastructure but still serve the requirement?
Yes.
And that's where I see the real opportunity for people to become better than their competitors. And also, there's a environmental question. Do we want to keep putting big lumps of steel everywhere?
Yeah, sustainability is very big for companies at the moment, isn't it, in terms of where they are. But it's probably that sort of supply and demand piece, isn't it? So the customers want choice. The carriers want choice. Are you doing it to give them choice, or are we doing it because we see that's the future of parcel delivery, you know, because there's got to be a bit of a happy medium there, hasn't there?
Yeah, and I think that's where it comes back to that point that says, if you've got a piece of infrastructure like a locker, and you work on the basis, I'll lodge an item, it'll get collected.
Yes.
But the critical measure there is how long is that item actually in the locker?
Yes.
Because it's like if you've got a fleet of vans, for every hour extra that you put them on the road, the residual, the impact in terms of cost is minimal. It's basically fuel.
Yes.
And the same with a locker. If you could get a compartment in a locker being used 1.2, 1.3, 1.5 times a day, or even twice a day, by optimizing not only the management of the physical infrastructure, but how you talk to the people who are using it, and saying to them, actually, I'd like you to, instead of lodging it tomorrow for your return, could you please lodge it on Tuesday? And then, because Tuesday's a quieter day than Monday.
Of course,
And then encouraging people to use, or giving people the choice to use a right locker that's right for them. So that when it's lodged, it's picked up within a couple of hours.
Okay.
And then that compartment's free.
So is that what these clients that you're working with, is this the sorts of things they're asking you to dive into?
So there's some of it they're recognising it, but others I'm helping them recognise that that's where there's a significant opportunity. You know, any asset in a business, its utilisation is effectively cash.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're making the most of that.
Yeah. Well, lots of things that are out there aren't necessarily new, are they?
No.
They're things that people have had in situ. There's an evolvement and a transformation of that particular product. But it's not something that's solely new to market. So it's, like you say, it's understanding if that product, from a sort of cross-border optimization or a last mile delivery perspective, is suited to that particular client that you're working with.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's where you're beginning to see trends in the market where people are thinking, I've got a network, it's just how do I use it to the best of its ability?
Oh, so they're trying to ascertain who they can talk to for sort of like new routes to market then. So they've got the contacts, but it's how can they utilise them in the right way?
Yeah.
Okay, so people are thinking differently then about their networks, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think that's where the data element comes in as well. So that the question of latency, it just isn't there anymore.
No.
If you think of
it's all about speed, isn't it?
Yeah. And the computational capabilities, because of cloud computing, just because of technology, means that you can get an instant response to an answer as long as you're talking to a machine that can give you the answer.
Yes.
And the capability of mathematicians to create machines that can answer those questions is there. So people are thinking about how do they route, how do they sell, how do they price in a way that gives them confidence that they don't have to make so many assumptions anymore, because they can understand what their capacity is today, tomorrow, next week, and build that into a model that allows them to price much better, cost much better.
So they're making more informed decisions then, aren't they, based on actual data and intelligence rather than, I don't like the word pie in the sky, but a sort of pie in the sky analogy or, growth plan.
Assumptions. All businesses make assumptions, and they're making assumptions, but within any assumption is a risk.
Yes.
And therefore, what your appetite for risk is will determine whether or not you're going to take that decision. And carriers don't want to fail service. No. And if you put too much volume in, you risk failing service. Yeah. If you don't put enough volume in, you risk not making money. Yeah.
They've got to keep the network busy, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly that. And that's what I'm helping a number of people do, is to say, okay, how do you optimize to the best use of the assets that you have, whether they're your assets or partner assets, to effectively put yourself in the best position to be profitable. Yeah.
And pricing's obviously quite a hot topic at the moment, isn't it? And I know you're obviously going to Miami. You're going to be speaking at the WMX. Are you going to be discussing then more around that dynamic pricing? Yeah, because that's a topic of conversation and has been a topic of conversation for quite a while. But do you think dynamic pricing is now going to become more of a reality?
I think so. I think in certain circumstances, and not in every circumstance, you're still going to have channels where pricing is relatively fixed. But if I think about when I was working at Octane, and they had platforms that were reselling tens of thousands of transactions a day, and they were dynamically pricing based on basically market conditions and the desire of carriers to take volume.
So they were agile enough to read the market and bespoke pricing around.
Because they had 3 or 4 years of history from that channel, and knowing that they could absorb that volume. So that's I wouldn't call that fully dynamic, but that's a variable pricing models. Yeah. But what I see the opportunities are, if particularly when you're moving cross border, is it's because you've got days in which it's going to take you 4 days to get to California at least. Yeah. So if you're offering someone a window of 4 to 7 days,
Yeah.
but actually being more specific about days 4, 5, 6, and 7,
Yeah.
and saying, actually, I'll give you this price on day 6 and 7, which might actually be elevated, and you might give someone a better price for day 5 because you know you've got capacity along the way to day 5.
Okay, interesting.
Or you'll premium price day 5 because you know you're already at capacity.
Okay.
So, but you have to know that information to be able to do that.
So that's the data.
Yeah, and it's data that becomes really valuable information, and you can make good assumptions. Now, you're seeing that Veho in the US are starting to do that, and they're again, it's variable pricing, and they're offering a day window,
right? And
they're offering people lower pricing. Now, I did a survey of the UK market recently, and you're already seeing that with people offering what they're calling sustainable delivery, which is a bit cheaper, and it will come between 3 different days. So effectively, the carrier gets to choose.
A 3-day window.
So it's a 3-day window, but they're choosing the day that they deliver it on based on the capacity they have in the network at the time. So they're either
right, okay, interesting.
So that's
more suited to the logistics business as opposed to the customer's needs, then, isn't it?
And this is where the customer.
It's a funny way for them to look at that.
And so that works at certain levels of the market.
Right.
But at other levels of the market, the pricing opportunity is to nudge the customer towards a different behaviour that will either benefit them, or yes, we can give you that service.
Yeah.
But there's a premium involved with doing that. And so it's as I said earlier, it's saying to someone, okay, you want to send a parcel, great. If you want to lodge it here on that time, it'll be this. But if you want to walk an extra 200 metres, I'll give it to you for this price, because you know that 200 metre further distance will take them to a site where there is capacity, and there's always capacity. And you're trying to basically manage your infrastructure in a different way. And then finally on that, the other element is with platforms, with any kind of subscription model where effectively it's not a single point price. You're not paying the price and then everything's done. If you've got a subscription model where you're working on a sort of reducing credit balance or something like that, you can say to someone, I'll give you this price, but you need to do this.
Right.
And if you do it, the price is what we said. But if you don't do it, for example, if you don't collect the item within 4 hours of it being lodged, then you won't get the price and it will revert to this price.
Oh, right, okay.
And so people like Vinted, I think, are already doing that or trialling that.
Right.
So there's all these elements are beginning to look at how do you dynamically price according to circumstance.
So this could become more of a reality now, then, couldn't it? Because
I think it will do.
Like I say, it's been a hot topic, but nothing's ever come to fruition around this. But the market is changing, isn't it? Is evolving. It's a difficult time. You know, I've said to guests before, the customers are great, you know, but they expect a lot from a carrier, and rightly so, because they're the customer. But everything's got to be comparable. So when you're talking about this dynamic pricing, yes, you can have this shiny service for X amount. If you want to pay this amount, it's 3 days or it's 4 days. So I think it's going to be an interesting 12 to 18 months now. There's going to be some big changes, UK and internationally. I think there's going to be a shift in both.
In the short term, the market's relatively flat, so you go into that cycle of effectively how do you manage service, cost, and retention. But I think there's I wouldn't say it's a bow wave, but there's a further challenge coming to the industry, which is that further intermediation between the buyer and ultimately the carrier. So managing that element for a new generation of buyers who are digitally wedded to.
So do you think they'll just go to a carrier that they know? Do you think they'll just think of a multinational brand, or do they get given choices?
I think it's the other way around. I think there's a risk that the carrier loses its any brand equity because they're not going through a traditional checkout. They're going through a social commerce checkout, and therefore are the options around how the item is delivered to them actually displayed.
Right, okay. So they maybe could have a choice of 5 or 6 carriers, and they might go for cost, for argument's sake?
Well, they're not even going to see the carrier.
Oh, do they not even have
So
access
they may,
to that?
in a lot of circumstances, they're going to buy the product,
Right.
and the choice about the carrier will be made based on their choice, and then that's totally with the
seller.
With the seller.
Right.
So the carriers lose. So there's another layer of intermediation there.
Yeah.
Now that's,
I wonder how they could track that. Is there any way they could log that?
Well, ultimately it will come down to what the service received by the buyer is going to be, and there is a generation now that is increasingly discerning about the service that they receive. So it will come through, but that's a challenge for the brands, the carriers themselves, to say, well, how am I going to be represented here? Because there's a risk of being commoditized in a way that doesn't normally end well. So that's where that element of, how do you keep brand A, B, C, and D in that carrier space
And I
prevalent?
think there needs to be a bit of a shift and a shake-up, because I've said it many times, but it's true. We cannot keep driving down the cost for logistics businesses. Any of my clients that I'm talking to, whether it's UK, domestic, it's freight forwarding, supply chain, fulfillment, it seems to be a race to the bottom on price. And it's been that way for a good couple of years, but we can't keep doing that, because otherwise these companies aren't going to be able to afford to keep moving, are they?
Yeah, and it is a real challenge. I think if you look at markets where there's less labour regulation, then I've done studies recently on North America and on Southeast Asia.
Right.
And for different reasons, you've got markets where effectively the costs that you'd see for an end-to-end service in somewhere like Indonesia are just so low.
Yeah.
And you're wondering how they can do it.
How can they make money?
Yeah. Now, there's elements there around, okay, well, it's a land grab in terms of market share.
Yes.
But it does come down to labour cost. So if the UK will be fundamentally different from other markets, but that labour cost element is going to play, it will always play almost the biggest part of final mile delivery. So it's how that's managed in a way.
Surely their service and their operations will suffer, because if they're paying that sort of a price that is significantly lower than what most other carriers can operate at.
Yeah.
Are the customers are they going to be able to be handling their volume? Are they going to be able to service them in the right way?
It's an interesting point, because the technology that supports a driver now, on a handheld, on your or my phone, you can have turn-by-turn navigation. And so it becomes a very well supported activity for the actual final mile driver. Right. So that element of it, and if you can get someone that you've de-skilled that to a degree, it's what value you place on the doorstep experience. Yeah. And if you're moving a lot of volume into out of home, out into either lockers or retail, then again you've subcontracted the customer service experience to either a physical box or a retail outlet. Yes. Yeah. So, but that's where people's expectations are, and that's where the industry sees a trajectory towards 40, 50% out of home. Right. For me, there's a question mark over that says, will you differentiate yourself through price or service? Yeah. So I think there's still definitely a place for people who need the service. And if you're buying goods above a certain value or they have a certain degree of importance, then actually getting the service, whether it absolutely works because it's a well-serviced out-of-home infrastructure. Yes. The retail outlet that you go to is one where you feel comfortable about getting your item collected or you're lodging your item, or the service you receive at the doorstep is exactly what it says. Well, that's pretty cheap now, isn't it? Yeah. For a home delivery. If I was to quote prices, I'd be wrong, because you're looking at, I shop and sell a lot, I can tell you. So it's, sub £2 for an end-to-end delivery is now something that more and more people can access. There's a question mark of if you were to take the generation that's coming through, Gen Z and then Gen Alpha to follow, there's an assumption that's a dangerous one to make, that these people will just want locker delivery, will just want the cheapest option. And lots more are working from home now
as we say, saw since COVID, yes, people are doing hybrid, but lots more companies, especially more in the world you're operating, which is more of the SaaS space rather than just the out and out sort of logistics piece, they do work from home. So they might not necessarily want to go out to pick up a parcel. So that home delivery is still of value to them, whereas others might actually want to go to the supermarket and pick it up whilst they're there. The whole thing comes down to choice, and them having the option, because every day is different, as you know. One day someone might be here, they're at home, whatever it may be, and they'll get it when they're either out and about or when they know it can be left in a safe place whilst they're doing the work.
And I think that there's a distinction between at-home and out-of-home delivery within final mile. And I think that's fundamentally wrong. In terms of, if you ask a consumer, do you want at home or do you want out of home? The better question is, what's the most convenient delivery for you?
Yeah.
And if you can say to someone, well, it's at home, but when are you going to be there?
Yeah.
Well, this is where, if you think about what DPD did 20 years ago now with Predict, that's at another level now.
Yeah.
Where effectively there's tech companies out there that are putting together packages that talks to consumers about, okay, our plan is to be there between this time and this time.
Yeah.
If you're going to be there, that's great.
Yeah.
And then they narrow the window down
to
within 15 minutes. It gives people confidence it's actually going to happen. When they do put that first message out, they'll say to them, but if you're not going to be there at that time, could you be there at these times? And give them options that actually fit with the route sequence that they can.
That's how much it's evolving.
That's how much it's evolving. So that's proving to be incredibly powerful because it's making people think, actually, I will be there. Yeah. Instead, just by being given 3 options rather than it's going to be then, instead of it's then, or it could be then or then.
Yeah.
Most people are actually going for the original because they're going,
because they've got choice.
And confidence, because the carrier's given them confidence.
Yeah.
And the other element around stuff that I'm working on now is if you go online and buy something and there's an out-of-home option, more often than not, it will just say, we could deliver it to an out-of-home option near you.
Yeah.
Okay, but which one? It doesn't do that. Or it might make an assumption that says, Michael, you live at this address.
Yeah.
The nearest locker or retail outlet is there. That will go to me. And I'll say, well, that's the nearest, but it's not the most convenient. And I'd rather have that one, which is a little bit further away.
Yeah.
And it's that capability of understanding true preference. And there's companies out there that are layering consumer preference and understanding walking patterns rather than just location. And that's going to evolve. So I think you'll see locker location becoming far more nuanced.
Yeah.
And the beauty of what they're doing now is they're building lockers that are modular so that you can make it 30, 20, 50 compartments and move them around at some cost, but limited cost. So if I was building a locker network now, I'd absolutely make sure it was modular. Yeah. So that I could change it. And then that would accommodate changing your customer base, changing preference. Yeah. All someone would have to do is put a gym next to it and all of a sudden it becomes incredibly popular. But if you're next to a gym that closes, well, it's not going to be as popular.
It's not going to get much traffic,
So it's that forward thinking. They'll be the same as everyone, that they will be as sensitive to price.
Do you think it will be quite price driven rather than ease of use?
I think, well, this is the point I was about to say, that every carrier that I've ever had conversation with wants to move the conversation away from price. Yeah. And the only way that you do that is talk about a service that provides
solution, isn't it?
Yeah, that provides real convenience. Yeah. And hopefully a wow factor around that. And that's where you will be able to move people away from price if you can say, if they look at it and say, that's just worth paying. And we're only talking pennies in this. It's not like you're going out to buy a car or a bed or something like that.
But it depends on the volume, doesn't it? Because those pennies can become tens of and hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, but it's a win-win if you get it right, because if the carriers, if they're adding value and convenience, and they're doing that through a network that's designed to deliver that, then they're they're adding some service in,
yes,
and some SLAs in, but then
so there is a value add, isn't there?
But if the shipper can just shut down its Wizmo calls, its calls, then everyone's win, and retention is absolutely key.
Yeah.
And the other element that carriers haven't really focused on so much is around cart abandonment as well, which is the number one piece for retailers.
Right.
Is they're thinking, once I've got someone to the point where
it's in the basket.
It's in the basket. Now, of course, some people drop out naturally because they just want to understand the whole process.
Yes, yeah.
But there's a carrier piece in there around, is your product surfaced in a way that truly represents what you're going to do, and is clear and without any ambiguity at all. And that's where, again, great information comes in, because if you can offer, particularly around back to location.
Yes.
We can offer you an out-of-home location, and it's here, and it's called this, and it looks like this, and it's open these hours, and it's got parking.
Yeah.
It's that kind of level of information that ticks up. For every % that a retailer can click up or reduce its cart abandonment level, that's all money that they wouldn't ordinarily have. And
because we've got choice as customers, like it's tough for retailers, I think, because unless you know a specific brand or you're loyal to that brand because you know how it fits or the style and how it looks on you, there's so many other options, isn't there?
Yeah.
So for somebody to be quite fickle and say, oh, actually, I quite like the look of that, or I might try this brand. So they've got to work really hard to keep customers, haven't they? And to keep that loyalty.
Yeah. And there's a place still for the word of the event. Last year at TDC was omnichannel.
Right.
This year it's platform.
Okay. Well, people like to physically go into a shop, to touch, to feel, to try on. But obviously, with not many of them having the physicalities of the shops, not many of the brands anymore, that then lends itself to the returns piece becoming quite significant for carriers, doesn't it?
And returns is a really interesting one, because I'm really surprised by the fact that there's a lot of talk about returns, and there's a lot of really good solutions out there, and the likes of DHL and Ascendia and Zigzag, Recommerce, Rebound, I can't remember quite what they're called now.
Yeah.
But they've developed some really strong solutions, and they're offering a portfolio of activities to really minimise it. But it's not being owned within the retailer environment. It's too often seen by some retailers as a cost line rather than effectively a service line. And that's where you begin to see changes. If they're not going to have
the shops and the physical locations, they need to be putting that into their plan of action, don't they?
Yeah, and have a method by which that is controlled, and interfaces with whoever's going to do logistics for them. Yeah, and that's a big part of it. And making it, if you make it too simple, you get too many returns. Yeah, if you make it too difficult, you lose your customer. So that balance, and there's a really important part for the carrier to play there around, well, how do you make that happen? And particularly with physical retail declining, what elements are there within the PUDO networks that are out there that can service some of that requirement, and at least do a degree of validation about, okay, it's in the original packaging, it hasn't been opened. No. Okay, tick that radio button, and then
stamp that.
Yeah, but then you've done a whole load of work that means that the person returning it, because they've fulfilled the requirements, great, they get the money straight away, and then the value, they feel valued because they did a simple thing. And it was convenient, back to convenience.
It takes exactly convenience and ease of use.
And so there's something there for carrier networks and their extended infrastructure to be part of that activity.
It's an interesting one. Yeah, definitely. In terms of, obviously, I'm conscious you've been in the industry for a long time around sort of innovation and technology and product. In your opinion, what do you see that's cutting edge in solution development at the moment?
Yeah, I mean...
that was a big sigh.
Well, there's so much of it. And the sigh is about, well, what do I pick?
What do you focus on,
Because
is there anything that's really stand out that you've seen and thought, oh, that's going to sort of latch on?
There's something that that interests me greatly is how do you diversify a network in terms of how it's actually resourced?
Yeah.
So effectively, that final mile piece, we talked about that being not devalued but de-skilled. That's a tough gig being a driver doing 100 plus drops a day in the city, and it's a job that doesn't attract. It's difficult to resource well.
Yeah.
Not everywhere, but certain areas. So how do you get past that? And there's elements of actually you deliver through crowdsourcing that is sustainable and it is the right way to do it. So I can see that happening in a way. And there's people looking at how do you make that work and make it equitable for all parties.
Right.
So you're not effectively giving it to people that are desperate for day work, or effectively you're breaking the law by doing it.
Yeah.
So there's elements there that I think are really interesting.
Okay.
There's a robotics element, and people get very excited about robotics, but I think that's where it's not so much cutting edge, but I think it will make the industry a better place to work in that. When I've managed operations or I've been part of a company that's got big nighttime operations with lots of sorting.
Yeah.
So the robotic element there, and that really is advancing now in a way that is, you see how they are able to be programmed.
Yeah.
I think there's an element about glassware technology as well.
Okay, what's that about?
So Google Glasses were launched 15 years ago, never were developed further. But I think there's an element there now about helping people under the roof in a warehouse, understanding how they perform sortation,
interesting.
how they take items out of course, exceptions, and then for drivers on the road is how do when they've got 150 parcels in the back of the van, how do they find the next parcel?
Yeah.
And how do they find it
I always
easily?
think that when my driver's outside and he's throwing things in the back of his van, and are they not in sort of segmented cages or
you'd
boxes?
You'd like to think that they would be. Well, if you look at some the carriers that have got either good density or have got networks that have been built without the legacy elements involved, so the tech's really strong, they're going along with these polysacks.
Right.
And you think, well, those polysacks loaded in the depot prior to leaving? Well, some of them are loaded further upstream.
Because they don't have long to
clustered.
drop off a parcel, do they?
No.
If you think they're doing 1 to 120, 30 drops
sometimes
a day.
150 to 200 if they've got really good density. So that's the other technology around clustering, which is be able to say, how can I bring together all the parcels that are going on a route or part of a route as early as possible and make that an unbroken, effectively a consignment that then you might add to later on. But effectively, then the sortation activity when you get to the dispatch in the morning is there's your 4 bags in order for the route for today, off you go. You could take half an hour out of some days, minimum 15 minutes. If you can help those people know that, from my experience, and I think it's still true, drivers, to get the best out of their day when they're multi-drop drivers, will want to load the van themselves or trust it to someone that they know is going to do it well.
Or they know the route.
So they need to be able to trust that. But if they can trust it, then they just want to get on the road. It can be a very, very demanding element. And that's another element around learning curves and appreciating the capability of someone to do the work day in, day out, and really understand that they're going to have days where that's just not possible. And on paper or in the system, it looks possible. But if you consider what they did for the last 3 days, or
just little like roadworks or anything that's going on in certain areas, any disruption disrupts their route, doesn't it?
And that's where it's back to the point I was making earlier about that information and the capability now to understand. Today's Wednesday. It's half term in London. The roads are a lot easier. So you can run without people, but there's certain parts that are going to be incredibly busy.
Well, it's that knowledge again. It comes back to data being key, doesn't it?
Yeah, but the interface between the information that the machine can tell you and making good decisions, not for every single decision it throws up, but for ones giving people the opportunity to say, yeah, that's right, go, or no.
Oh gosh, the world is just evolving at a
It
pace that's
is.
faster
Yeah.
than we can keep up, really, isn't it?
Sometimes feels like it. That's for sure.
What do you love about the logistics industry?
It's different every day.
Yeah.
And I mean, I trained in engineering. I love cars. I love motor racing, and seeing something work to a really high level that is thousands of components. There's a lot of similarities there,
Yes.
Particularly with cross-border. Thinking, okay, how are we going to make this work?
Yes.
The complexity, it gets me.
Yes.
In a way that, I just think, great.
So it's
One,
something-
building
yeah.
it, and then optimizing it, sometimes solving it when it's gone wrong, quite often solving it when it's gone wrong.
Sometimes hating it.
Yeah. But and engaging with and that diversity of customer base is brilliant as well. You meet some fantastic people.
You must have had
well.
a huge portfolio at Royal Mail in the head of role there, because that was all around the commercial relationships, wasn't it?
Yeah, with partners, it was brilliant, and that's where you just saw how same problem, different part of the world, different approach to it. Sometimes culturally, but often just an innovation level. And people would come to the UK and we'd spend time together, and they go, "Goodness me, that's a brilliant idea."
Yeah.
And that sharing of ideas was so exciting because you just think, "Okay, we'll try that." Or we'll give that a go, or we'll work in partnership about how you do stuff. And wherever you went, it was different.
Good.
And people, it's an industry, and I think it's probably true of most industries, but when people meet each other outside of their countries, their working environment, there's a desire to share best practice and see, can I help you with that? And that's always been fascinating.
Yeah, that is good. And you need that in service-based businesses, because more of us need to sort of collaborate, because it's a vested interest for the industry, isn't it? Everyone's in it together in logistics, whether it's from parcels or freight or warehousing. It is encompassing that full end-to-end supply chain, isn't it?
Within our industry, you go to events and you do talk to the competition. And whilst there are points where you're not going to talk about, there is far more, and I think it has changed. Some companies haven't embraced it. But you will say, okay, is there something we can do here? Yeah. All right, you might go under an NDA, and then you either do it or you say, well, anyway.
Well, no one can do everything.
No.
And if they think they can do everything, they're not doing everything to the best of their ability. You need to, if you can have a network and a partner network, and you're leveraging the best from each of those partners for your customer, that's the secret ingredient, really, isn't it? Yeah.
And you're seeing it now with the activity within, the mergers or the capital partners that have, the last year has been a real eye-opener for, last 2 years, in terms of people, either acquisitions or semi-acquisitions or capital partners.
There's lots of going on, lots of M&A activity as well.
There is.
It's going to be an interesting, 18, 24 months, I think.
And then I look at markets overseas and you see how people have built from the ground up, particularly in Asia. And they have the advantage, there is no legacy.
No.
There is no capital or balance sheet legacy at all with those businesses. And they, instead of making decisions about tech, buy or build, most of it is build. And so they've built these, tech that is designed solely for their purpose. And you're beginning to see that in Europe.
So they're all starting to build more bespoke systems now then?
Yeah, they'll build their own. It's a custom system. Rather than going to a systems integrator and saying, we need to do this, and then we need to bolt these elements on and these partners on. Yeah. There's companies that J&T Express have gone from basically a startup in China to now being only 35% of the Southeast Asian market.
In how long?
In less than 15 years.
Wow.
It's an incredible growth, given that they've done that from a standing start. And they have that advantage of there's no rules. No. There's no legacy. No. So they're doing it completely as their own. There's an awful lot to be learned about how they're approaching that.
Is there anything, obviously we've touched on the last mile delivery, we've touched on cross-border optimization, what your carriers, partners, tech platforms are wanting from you as a consultant, but also what trends they're seeing and what they're trying to adopt within their businesses.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you feel quite passionate about or that you feel you want to address with me today?
Yeah, I mean, within the industry, it's around the consumer.
Yeah.
It's back to that element of really understanding what the consumer wants.
Yes.
And so the best partnerships I've seen is when you're working with everyone in the supply chain, from shipper all the way through to consumer, and understanding what that consumer requirement is.
Yeah.
And focus groups are absolutely brilliant for that, because if you look at the traditional surveys, what are the 10 most important things when you're buying, when you're receiving a parcel service? Price will be either 1, 2, or 3, and others. But it's the focus groups that really get underneath it and talk about the behavioural elements of and how items are presented to people, the choices they're made, how they're communicated to. And I think that's one element where service is absolutely critical. The MD at Parcelforce, Vanessa, when we're going through that massive change, she said service is our only product. And it is. You can call it a pre-9, a PM service, a 2-day service, but it means nothing. What's measured is, did it do what it says?
Did you deliver?
Did you deliver the service? And then the secondary service, which is more important, is when you need to contact, then how do you do it? And that's where this isn't our industry. It's customer service in the UK generally and in Europe. We've just cut people off completely. Just go online.
It's all overseas now, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
overseas call centres or
not even call
online,
centres.
you're talking to a robot.
Yeah. And that's it. Some people don't even have call centres. No. And that's, to me, is there's an opportunity for people to stand above that level of service by just having...
I agree with that.
You're going to automate the front end. And the companies that have really risen up in terms of either retail or service base, there's absolute correlation between the fact that they've grown and that their service is one that they care about. And I think it's Sonos, that I've got a Sonos system at home that should work and it doesn't work, and it stopped working, and I got fed up trying to fix it, and it's not the most important thing in my life.
No, how long have you been trying to fix it?
About 6 months, and then I gave up. And then the new CEO comes in and contacts pretty much every Sonos customer and said, I know we've had a real issue with this.
Good on him, tackling it head on.
All of a sudden that brand went from being someone that I never considered buying again to one that I'm thinking, you know what, you fixed it because you recognised that you've just let it drift.
Yeah.
Brilliant product, didn't work.
Yeah.
Now it's a brilliant product that does work.
It does work.
And that's
after 6 months.
No, I've had it 3 years.
Oh God.
It's failed after 6 months, and it's taken another, and I just gave up because it's not important.
No.
I just thought I've just wasted 200 quid. But anyway, it's fixed now.
Yeah.
But they've gone from 0 to hero.
You just answered your own question there.
Yeah.
That's based on the CEO reaching out to you as a customer, saying, we know this is what's been going on. We're here if you need us now. You know, so that, adds a lot of weight to
differentiates.
Your
and I think service will always differentiate once you get above a certain value.
Yeah.
The commoditized items that come in through the network, that's not the case. But everything above that, service will win you.
Yeah.
Long-term revenue.
It'd be interesting to see what things people do adopt this year, won't it?
Yeah.
If they change or pivot or look at things a little bit differently.
Yeah. Again, it's going to be interesting to see what people, not necessarily do with price, but how they balance price with
that
service.
Dynamic pricing, I think, as you say, it is coming to a head now.
Yeah.
And it's something that was a touch point, but is now getting closer and closer to potentially becoming a reality.
Yeah. And I think it is about the fact that you've got the capability to do it now. And
I'd be
have
interested
the
what comes of that when you're over in Miami at WMX.
Yeah.
What the talking points are around that, because
we'll see.
People are quite passionate about it, aren't they?
They are, and I think people hopefully it will recognise that it's never about price gouging. It's about pricing for the best opportunity, because it's got to be a win-win. We've all felt ripped off by price, but if you feel as if it's a fair price.
No, I hear you. Well, we have come to the end of our podcast,
Okay.
Michael. You're looking at me as if to say, what's she going to do now? I don't know if you've seen the podcast that we've previously done.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm shaking now.
We do a bit of a quick fire round. Not so much me. The audience likes to know a little bit more about the guests. So are you happy for me to just run with these?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, okay. So, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Definitely a morning person.
Yeah. What's your favourite holiday destination?
I've got two. I'd say in Europe it would be Crete, but then anywhere in sub-Saharan Africa. I love Africa.
Really? My auntie's in Africa at the moment on
Which
a safari.
part?
Oh, I've got no idea. I'll show you it. She's on my WhatsApp, but she's just sent me the closest up images of the animals. I'll show you them when we go back in the recording studio. It's unbelievable. It's
the most humbling experience of my life. It changed my life going there because it's so beautiful. It's so wild, and the people are just. That's where you think innovation here is great, but when you've got very little and you create something that is on the same sort of level as a European manufactured product, in terms of its efficacy, just incredible. So,
I don't disagree. What's the one food you could eat every day?
So I think it would be, I love spaghetti.
Yeah.
So it'd be spaghetti with prawns, garlic, chili, and little cherry
like
tomatoes.
A prawn linguine?
Yeah, prawn linguine.
I thought you were going to say like spaghetti hoops.
Oh, no. And,
very
and
nice.
Beans.
Prawn linguine, very nice. Is there a book, podcast, or film that's really inspired you?
So I would say, I'm going to be cheeky here and say three things. So I think the book was This Thing of Darkness, Harry Thompson, which is about a guy called Robert Fitzroy, the most amazing person. He was a captain of the Beagle.
Right.
And then went on to be an MP, then went to be the first governor of New Zealand, then invented weather forecasting.
Right.
And all that time had manic depression. But it was
this is like an autobiography.
It's actually written by the guy who created Have I Got News for You?
Okay.
Harry Thompson, who sadly died very young, but he wrote, this was his first novel. So there's that. And then Hilary Mantel, everyone knows Wolf Hall.
Yes.
But A Place of Greater Safety about the French Revolution. I read that recently, and I didn't. And it was 800 plus pages, and I didn't want it to end.
Could you not put it down?
No. And then the film I loved in the last few years was Arrival,
right,
with Amy Adams, and about aliens just turning up in this very strangely spaced.
It all goes on at your house, doesn't it?
But it was a concept of time not having to be linear.
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind. And
that's quite interesting, actually. I might look
and
at
it had Forrest Whitaker in it, who I love as well.
Very good.
So yeah, those are my
interesting.
three.
What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I think it would be to listen properly. Actually listen properly. Was
that when you were in sales? Did they say you've got two ears for a reason? I didn't mention. I mentioned briefly. I worked in retail, but when I left the motor industry because I got made redundant because there were no jobs. It was a recession, so I wasn't that long in. So I left, and I couldn't get a job anywhere. So I went back to McDonald's and became a manager. Their trainings apparently sets you up for life.
It does.
People have told me that.
I still think about things now, particularly about people management and about process management and stock management. And I think, oh yeah, I learned that at McDonald's.
That's crazy, isn't it?
The training you get as a manager is fantastic. You're a combination of classroom and on-the-job training. And they were just drumming into it. So if you've got a member of staff in front of you and you're talking to them about any kind of performance issue or they've got an issue, you have got to be, attention. Do not, and just simple things. When you're listening, don't look at anything. Just look at the person. Yeah. Look at the body language. And that
It just definitely set you in good stead,
yeah,
doesn't it?
absolutely.
It's a good grounding, that. There's a lot of good people that have gone on to very, very
Yes.
senior positions, either from McDonald's or Coca-Cola.
Yeah,
Apparently their training is also really, really good.
yeah. An MD of a parcel company in the UK was a manager at McDonald's.
Oh, really? What's your most used emoji?
I think it's claps.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I hear good news, I'll clap it, or someone does something.
Oh, do you? I like love heart or rocket.
Yeah, I
But
do.
girls
I do,
are different.
Yeah, I do love a love heart.
I do love heart and a rocket. Is there a story? Obviously, we've touched on the amount of experience and years you've had in the industry. Is there a story that still makes you laugh when you tell it?
One that I can tell, I suppose.
Yeah, one you can share.
It's not actually part of it's not from the industry.
No.
It's from Africa.
Okay.
So I was out there with a charity, and in Zambia, and the way that the country's run is somewhat different from the UK, and the way that policing is acted upon is subject to, I would say, unorthodox methods to get people through.
That's putting it politely.
Yeah. So actually, my namesake, our driver Michael, had been arrested on spurious elements and had been put in jail and then let out, and they said, well, he's going to lose his license. So I was travelling somewhere with someone else, and they said, the guy that was running the charity said, could you just pop in to see this policeman? Pulled out a pair of boots and said, you need to agree with him that these pair of boots will allow Michael not to be charged for that spurious motoring offence.
Oh my gosh.
So I went there, and so we're sat there chatting, and it's all you're just talking all around it.
Yeah.
And then I said, so is there something that you need in your work and in your life that would help you do a better job?
Yeah.
And I thought he said, I need a new boat. So I turned to the guy that was next to me and said, he's not getting a boat. He said, no, don't worry, it's the boots.
Oh, the boots.
So I said, boots. It's funny that we've just had a delivery of boots.
Oh.
And so we managed to get my namesake off a charge, and there's a Zambian policeman who was walking around in a fantastic pair of brand new boats.
Very good. That's an interesting story. And I think, no.
Go on. Oh, here we go.
You know what's coming.
I don't. But
what's the one guilty pleasure you're willing to admit on air?
On air, I think it's buying music. I just can't stop.
You're an addict?
Absolute addict.
What are you talking, like vinyls?
Yeah, vinyl. And because I've gone back to vinyl, because going back to the Sonos story, I treat myself to a proper sound system and with a great turntable, and now I can't stop buying vinyl. And
it does sound, the quality of the music though is so much better on vinyl, isn't it?
I believe it is, and also just by having a system that is of a quality level that does convey everything that went into that music. If I didn't have music, I don't know what I'd do.
No.
And new music in particular. So, thank goodness for Radio 6, because I'd be completely lost without it. So, yeah.
Oh, good. Well, that's good to know. So we've given people a good insight into you as an individual there as well. So we have come to the end of the podcast. Do you feel there's anything else you want to address before we sort of wrap it up?
I think I've covered most things. I think it's another element around things that either I would have I've learned or whatever. It's around mental health as well.
Yes.
And
that's something you're very passionate about,
I've managed a mental health condition for the last 30 years almost, and that's something that I'm great with it now, but the experience of, and it was a difficult time for me.
Yeah.
And I think what I'd hope is that we're seeing a path of improvement, about appreciating the fact that that's something that people don't want to talk about.
No.
And when they experience it, they need as much care as if someone, has got a long-term organ condition, because it's the same thing.
It's the same thing, yeah.
Your brain is an organ, the same as a kidney, your liver, your lungs. And if that's one element that I'm really passionate about, and trying to help people get through it themselves, but also help organisations appreciate it and recognise that there's a few small things that you can do that will enable you to hang on to the best people, but also help people recover and get back to why you thought they were great anyway. Because again, there's often a correlation between people who are really creative and have a risk, a propensity for suffering from mental illness.
And lots of men don't like to talk about it, do they? I think it's only probably in the last maybe year or so that men are becoming more open and vocal about mental health and mental wellness.
And there's stuff that business can do that is, again, are really simple. So mental health first aid training is something that I've been actively involved with, and it makes a real difference, because people just suddenly managers feel confident, and employees feel confident about having a conversation that says, actually, I'm not feeling well mentally, rather than just hiding it, and a manager not being confident enough to have that conversation that says, I'm not going to go through the training now, but having the confidence to maybe have that conversation and help that person surface the
well, maybe
problem.
if there's a link or anything that
I'll get the link for you.
Send to me, I'll definitely pop this on the sort of bottom of the podcast, and then if it is something that people want to embrace or know a little bit more about, or feel that they want to adopt, they can definitely reach out to you directly.
Yeah,
perfect.
Excellent.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you, Michael. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and join me today.
It's been a pleasure, Nikki. Really enjoyed it.
Much.
Thank you.
Thank you.